Welcome to the Face to Face. I'm Genevieve Kyle-Lefebvre and I will be your host today. Face to Face is a bilingual series of video recorded here in Coquitlam. We acknowledge that Coquitlam is located on the ancestral and unceded territory of the Coquitlam. We thank the Coquitlam people who continue to live on the lands and cares for them along with the waters and all that is above and below. Today on the Face to Face, I am sitting with Meghan Simington and Jessica Davidson from Safe Street Tri-Cities. Well, thank you so much, ladies, for coming here tonight. I think it's your first time on Tri-Cities Community Television, right?
It is, yeah.
It is. So tell us, what is Safe Street Tri-Cities?
I'm really going to pass this off to Jessica. I came across Jessica's profile after she had posted in the Tri-City Moms group just about an incident that happened with her daughter, which very closely related to another one of my friends and her son, and just really kind of emotionally connected with the story and wanted to lend my support. But Jessica's story was really, something that moved me. So an unfortunate event happened around a year and a half ago with my daughter, who was 12 at the time. So she was attacked and savagely beaten by 3 girls at Lions Park in Port Coquitlam. And I went through all the stages of grief, really, but then I ended up reaching out to the parenting community through Tri-City Moms group because I was looking for kind of information and if this was something that was happening, because until it happened to my daughter, I thought everything was super safe here, and I never would have expected something like this to happen in our little area. So anyways, at that point, parents started reaching out, many anonymously, but I got an outpouring of support in the group. And I've, at this point, a year and a half later, I've spoken to, I can safely say, well over 100 parents.
Wow.
Who've had similar things happen to their own kids. So yeah, a group of us kind of came together and decided that we wanted change and that this wasn't acceptable. And we've been working quietly and diligently ever since, I guess.
Wow. So to do a little recap here, so your daughter's 12, she's playing at Lions Park here in the Tri-Cities, doing whatever children do, and all of a sudden 3 girls came and attacked her.
So it's a little bit deeper than that. She did know them, but not well.
Okay.
But then basically they turned on her, and I do believe it was an organized thing, like a premeditated attack, and she had no idea that it was coming, obviously. So yeah. And that's what we're seeing a lot of, is these repeated attacks. So it's happening at our local rec centers, it's happening at the shopping malls, it's happening on school property. There's been a recent stabbing that happened at Terry Fox just a couple months ago. There was a machete incident that was in Port Moody High School last year. So it's becoming more and more frequent, and as much as you're relating to it as being young children, the maturity of these girls and the expectations of their maturity is much higher, but unfortunately they're getting in really dangerous situations. And a lot of it's starting online and it's starting in the schools. It's not getting properly reported, and what we're really hoping for is just to bring awareness for parents, but also for the schools and for the police to start working with those families to find solutions.
So something happened to your son, Meghan?
No, it was to a friend's son, which
okay.
is what triggered it for me. I have 2 children that are preteens, and I really want to kind of have them. We moved to Port Coquitlam because we were looking for a safe community. I grew up on the North Shore, and I really want to make sure that they're a part of a community that's inclusive, but also if something happens, that it would be reported and that their community is going to be looking out for them.
Okay, I understand. And what kind of event and services you're offering?
I think for us, what we've really tried to focus on is bringing together these town halls. We did one last year. We just had a meeting just in December with the mayors, as well as the police department, the rec center, and a few of the key families that we've been working with. And just kind of bringing that roundtable discussion to open up to say, what are the solutions? What is the awareness that can be there? And how can parents really activate, by speaking about the Erase program? How do they talk to the SD43 to say if they've got complaints and get engagement? But also to how to understand the police and how to work, with the ministry to get the file information or to access the resources that they need.
Wow. So if we know someone, or let's say our own children had this type of problem because we see children, but that can happen to anybody, right? So anybody basically that's being attacked for XYZ reason, that's been premeditated or not premeditated, like it could happen from anybody, right?
So even elderly, yeah.
And you guys are offering support for everyone. Am I understanding right?
Yeah, our focus is primarily where it's coming from is youth that are at risk. So we're finding a lot of kids that are, say, on the spectrum, but they're not getting supports in school, are being alienated and bullied. And sadly, as we're seeing with a lot of these families, is incidents happen with these children, and then the snowball rolls out of control. And then you've got a child that could even turn around and become someone who's a perpetrator of crime. So it's kind of growing from there. But the problem is there's a really big gang mentality that's happening with this. And what we're seeing with the police and hearing, and Jess can speak to this, is, it's happening to 75% of girls. It's been referenced in a recent book, Anxious Generation, just about these statistics. Over 70% of girls have been victimized. But the problem is the police are even referencing this, how much of this is girl-on-girl violence and how there's this gang mentality. So filming and sharing on TikTok or filming and sharing, like in Jess's situation, on Instagram. And so there's that initial incident, and then there's the virality and the re-victimization that happens to these young people.
Yes, I guess the social media component in all this brings a different layer of complicity to specifically things that are posted on social media.
It's a huge issue, yeah. So during right after my daughter was attacked, when I was speaking with the officer who attended, I was told that I couldn't prove who they were and that nothing was going to happen, essentially. But I had heard that there was a video that was made. I heard that from witnesses, actually, that everybody had their phones out and was filming. And I told the officer, well, don't worry, I'll find that video and then we'll talk. And I did a couple days later when it was posted publicly on Instagram, which was horrifying for my daughter,
God.
of course.
Yeah.
And it's interesting, too, when you're looking at this generation, like we all grew up with a play-based childhood. Our kids now, I know for my children, since 2010, smartphones have been out. So they're being raised on a phone childhood. Everything's being filmed. Everything's being shared. And even with the advent of AI, these girls could share a photo and it can be distorted and then reshared over and over and over again. So our children are kind of out there in a very scary world where really this information can't necessarily be pulled back.
And when you have event at the tunnel, I know there's one on February 22nd. I know this video is going to be released after the event, but what is planned for that event, just so we have an idea.
So on January 22nd, we're very fortunate to have over 55 delegates coming from RCMP, city councillors, representation from the mayor's office from Port Coquitlam, as well as Coquitlam. We've got some of the DPAC from SD43, and
School
representatives,
parent advocates, concerned parents. Yeah.
We have a gentleman, actually, Donovan, who's going to be joining us with a message, and his daughter was recently victimized in Kelowna. So what we're finding is the voices are starting to grow and gather and support each other just to bring this out of the shadows. So our goal is to kind of look at solutions, growing our petition, potentially taking it up to advocacy to change the criminal law that's in Canada for youth and kind of what's happening with the Young Offenders Act, as well as having the school representation of police in schools. And we're really looking to just have parents understand what's going on out there, but how they can support by being engaged and how they can really have those open conversations with their children. Because it's really gotten out of control. We have this conversation a lot just about what we experienced as youth and what is happening now.
It's very different. Yeah.
It's so different.
And this is not isolated to our area. Like, as mentioned, the attack in Kelowna. So those parents have come together and done something similar to what we did. Like created a group, and they were actually out patrolling the neighborhoods. They've done a lot themselves, which is great. But this is all over Canada and beyond.
And there's, a story, and it dates back to when my children were first born, and it's Amanda Todd's story, which is absolutely heartbreaking. And if we think back to that story is 14 years old, and there hasn't been a lot of shift. And we really need to educate in the schools about gangs. We really need to educate in the schools about social media safety and internet safety. There's a really big message where we need to kind of get back into schools and educating both the kids as well as the families.
As well as the parents. You did touch on about having the police into school. Is it something that the police are starting to think about? I know it's probably based on funding, but having a police officer walking around, and that could be like something that's quite of a presence.
So that used to be commonplace, the liaison officers in the school, even dating back to when I was in high school. But those programs had major cutbacks and basically stopped happening during COVID. And they are getting back to it now, but it's a funding issue and a staffing issue. That is what we are hearing, at least.
Yeah, I knew you were going to say that.
So we did get some updates from the last meeting we had with the mayor in Port Coquitlam, because the police representation was there with the youth detachment. They are increasing the training for youth detachment, but they're still at the stages of bringing them on board. So there's a different understanding that happens for a police officer who's working with youth issues. And then just to go back to it again with the social media piece, it's just such a big variable that's happening right now, and it's changing so quickly. So that landscape of gangs, drugs, social media, they really need to have a more intensive training if they're going to be coming into the schools.
Coming into the schools, I can understand. So what are the hopes? What are we thinking about the future for the Tri-Cities with Safe Street Tri-Cities?
We would like to bring awareness to these issues. We would like parents to know what steps they can take, because a lot are just lost and don't know what they can do. They don't know if they can do anything, so they just do nothing. We'd like to see changes eventually to the Youth Criminal Justice Act, because it is very lenient. And then we'd also like to see different sectors working together who deal with youth. Like, one big thing that we discovered was that the police and the school and the rec centers, they were all kind of disconnected rather than coming together, because it's the same kids in the same community. And so that is a big missing piece in our eyes.
I think a big piece too is parents really need to start asking their kids what's going on in school. There was a recent poll that was put up at Terry Fox High School just in regards to bathroom safety. And the statistic was 75% of kids felt unsafe using the bathrooms. And I know from talking to other parents that there's actually no doors that were on some of the stalls in the bathrooms. So a lot of children can't even use the bathroom.
I actually saw a post about this today on social media.
Yes, and the post was actually put up, the survey was ran internally by the students that go to Terry Fox. And that was what came back with 75%. So there is a way for parents to communicate if they have those conversations back with the school on their school website. They can also use the Erase program to report if they're hearing any things, and it can be anonymous, which is great. That goes straight up to the principals as well as the school district. But I think when we have these conversations high and low at the dinner table, and you hear that low, or you hear that Bobby's potentially going to have something happen to him, make that anonymous report and start pushing it up and really kind of pushing the envelope of the schools, getting the support they need, because more reports means more feet on the ground, whether it's EAs in classrooms that are supporting kids that are at risk, or it's getting it to the police officers to get them on campus.
Okay, so you just touched there. So let's say we're worried, or our child is giving us some type of information, or the neighbors, or whoever it is, right? The first step is to go talk to the teacher, talk to principal. Is that where we start?
Yeah, I think reaching up, like I know for me personally, when I've had concerns about my children, definitely reaching out to the counselors that are in the school. And if you're not getting the advocacy that you need, we hear that from a lot of the moms, push harder. Go straight up to the PAC, go straight up to DPAC, go straight up to the superintendent. Just keep on pushing until you get the results you need, because it's really the squeaky wheel, gets the changes that are in our school district that we need. We're so short on EAs. We're so short on support in the classrooms, and a lot of parents don't realize it, or they don't even know that there's not a bathroom door, in their high school classrooms.
What's the reason with the no bathroom door?
I mean,
is it because it's broken? I mean, I'm not going to the bathroom if there's no door. As a girl, it's not happening.
It was absolutely shocking when I heard it. And, there is a trend that's going on in social media with just this violence, where they're ripping the doors off, and it's like a TikTok challenge. But that's not the issue. The issue is the school district needs to get right back in there and put those doors back up. If there is damage to school property, it's a human rights issue that our children should be able to walk out of the classroom and the closest washroom should be available to them.
And I can imagine also, I mean, if there's no door, what do you do if someone comes in and take a photo?
Oh, good point.
Right?
And especially for boys who are only going to have one stall in the bathroom. That's their only option.
And it's that bathroom safety. Like, teachers aren't able to access those bathrooms, obviously, because of security and safety issues. But we have this rise of vaping that's happening in bathrooms, and you don't even know what's in that vape. So you've got our children using, a bathroom that's, a right of theirs, and it's not a safe environment for them.
I can see how, the vaping is a problem, and going and hide and vape in the bathroom and showing the wrong example to the little ones, that it becomes cool thing to do, and then should not be in there.
It's just it's exposure, but it's also you should be able to go to the washroom and not feel that you're compromising your safety, or that you're going to get yourself into a situation where you're going to overhear something that you don't want to hear. I know that there's, fights that break out in bathrooms. It's a great place to do that if you want to do that, because it's out of the eyes of the teachers.
So one thing that we did take with the erase reporting tool that we are promoting, we have started, we're not even close to where we'd like to be, but we got stickers printed that have a QR code on them. And our idea was to put them on the inside of bathroom stalls so that if somebody wants to scan it on their phone, the QR code, nobody's going to see them doing that if they wanted to report something.
Okay, that's a great idea. And then that QR code would be attached to police,
So it sends it to the district principal of the school district.
Okay.
And then she kind of triages it and will report to the police if necessary, or to the appropriate school.
And we're heavily reaching out to restaurants, any type of youth programs. If you have anything, a business where there's a bathroom that is being used by youth, there's posters that are available on the Erase website. There's a ton of media that's available for it, just to get educated. But the more businesses, the more schools, the more rec centers that we can have using this QR code and getting the information out, it's the more kids that know how to reach out for help and where it's going to go.
And it is a government of BC initiative. Like, it's not our own initiative. It was created by them. So it's kind of a win-win.
So
to promote
it's
it.
there, and
Yes.
you guys found out about it, and it's totally in line with your
Exactly.
mission and your vision.
And we found out there wasn't much education done on it, despite it being there. Many people who you would think would know about it, who work with youth and police, they didn't necessarily even know it existed. So we have taken it upon ourselves to educate about it, because it is a great option if they don't want to directly call the police or be named. It's good in that regard.
The great thing with that program too, I mean, there's lots of fantastic programs like Children of the Street, Onyx, Plea, that are going in and doing education about gangs and exploitation of youth in schools. But with this one, it's tied to statistics. So every time one of these reports goes in, there's a statistic that's going to demand more action happening in our schools as well as in our community, because those reports are being counted through our provincial government.
Okay. So what's the next step now? Like, I know you guys are doing the town hall meetings, going to school, talking to a lot of people. I'm understanding you guys are meeting with a lot of people and creating a lot of awareness. What's next?
Our goal is to continue growing the petition that we have online. We're at 1,724 petition signatures that we have. Our goal is to roll that into taking that right up where we're looking at a government level to make change.
Where can we find this petition?
So it is online, and it's called the Tri-City Safe Streets Community Safety Plan.
Okay. So you just Google that, and it comes up.
Yeah.
On change.org.
Yeah.
And another big goal for us is to create that resource. So when we are receiving this information, we know we first want you to go to Crime Stoppers or go to the police or go to your school. But if you're a mom who's looking for support and you want to know how to navigate, we want to be there to at least give you a kind ear, someone who's experienced it, someone who can walk you through what programs are actually active, which ones are probably a good fit for you, and kind of help these moms really navigate, because they're going into, how do I pull a police file? How do I get my social services number?
It's so emotional.
And things aren't connected.
And if you're just Googling, like you're just taking
Oh, no,
a
it's
shot in the
horrible.
dark. You don't know
Yeah,
what
yeah.
you're doing. And I kind of went through it, and now I can help guide people, as have others who are working with us.
Because what we found is the biggest aha moment for us was realizing that even if your child is working with the ministry and then there's a criminal file for them, they're not connected. So how does a mom get those things connected and then get that information to the school so you can protect them in the school?
Oh, I see. Okay. And how can people reach you? Like, they see you today, they want to know where can they find you?
So we do have a Facebook group that we are growing that is called Safe Streets Tri-Cities. So they can find us on there.
Also on the petition. If you're on the petition, you can find the information there. You'll also see a lot of really great, fantastic interviews with Jess where she's spoken to the media and really spoken to this issue, whether it's recent stabbings, whether it's when the first petition came out. We really try and bring it all back to the petition is the best place to find the information for us.
So Jessica and Meghan, is there any organization that you would refer to work with specifically if we have a youth in need?
I would have to say from my own personal experience, reaching out to Claire, that's from Share, they have been really working heavily to bring the Foundry to the Tri-Cities. So they do have some exciting news they're going to be coming out with in the next couple months about the new location. I can't speak to it myself. But just knowing the Maple Ridge program that we've reached out to and sent countless families to, there's group therapy,
There's walk-in counseling, which is huge because normally you have to book way in advance and wait for an appointment, or it's difficult to get an appointment. This one has walk-in. On certain days, they can see somebody that day, which is huge.
And it's even looking at things, if they're wanting to talk about drug issues, if they want to talk about birth control, if they want to talk about bullying or cyberbullying, it's a place they can go to. It's safe to talk to. It's not your parents. And then they're actually trained counselors that are there that can really work with the youth.
So that's a good service for the child or for the youth itself and
family.
for the parents, the families. Excellent. Okay. Now I'm curious. We're talking Tri-Cities, Coquitlam, Port Coquitlam, Port Moody. Are you doing like meeting in all the city halls? How is everybody contributing to your initiative?
I would say our strongest engagement has come from Red West in Port Coquitlam. Last year we had really heavy engagement from Richard Stewart. I have to say he was very emotionally invested in the story. We had a very heartfelt conversation with him.
Maple Ridge was also great, although they're not included in the Tri-Cities. Dan Rumi was fantastic and really helped guide us in our mission. So
We have not had the greatest engagement with Port Moody, which we really want to. I mean, especially with the stabbing that happened in the school last year, there's a desperate need for it. So we're hoping to see more of a conversation with them.
Oh, that would be great. I think Port Moody, if you listen to this, Port Moody need to step into, have a little meeting in your town hall here and talk about what's happening in our streets here. Yes, awesome. Please. Okay, ladies, before I let you go, is there anything else you would like to add to this interview?
I think my big thing is if parents can reach out to their PAC, to their school DPAC, and make that request for End Gang Life to be for those presentations for the school. Children's Street and Plea and Onyx, also fantastic programs. And there's also an art journaling program that's available for youth dealing with anxiety.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today. It was a pleasure to have you. And we want to have you back because we want to know about what happened on January 22nd at the town hall. And maybe we can do a rundown who was there and what was the educational pieces that was shared. And we can bring even more awareness to the Tri-Cities residents. So thank you so much.
We really appreciate it.
Yes, that would be great.
And thank you.
You're welcome. From the Tri-Cities Community Television and myself, Genevieve Kyle-Lefebvre, thank you so much for joining us today.